What is the difference between being punk and being a punk?
We are here to talk some punk rock, some music, comics,
Punk culture, DIY shit, anything we want to talk about.
That's what fascinates me. Give me everything. Absolutely everything.
I find that music and comics have always been intertwined.
Muck spout.
Chicks dig it. Don't worry.
Hey, welcome to Muck Spout, episode 9?
2023, season 2.
There we go.
I know, very belated Happy New Year to everyone. We haven't seen y'all in a while. So.
Yeah, it's been a good month now since we had Josh Cater on. That was a good time. So today, we have John and Ben with us as always, and I'm Eric. And we have Billy Mays the third in his very green studio in the corner there.
Welcome,
Billy,
dude.
you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Billy. I make music under the name Infinite Third. I used to be like a touring musician, kind of a one-man band solo artist, and whenever that thing happened in 2020, I stopped playing shows. So now I'm a streamer on Twitch, which has actually been amazing, and I love it, and that's why it's green behind me. But yeah, and I was actually, before we went live, I was talking to Ben, trying to remember how Eric and I met. And I believe that I actually don't remember how we got connected, but I remember when we met in Chicago. Oh yeah, so say it.
Yeah, so you had been sharing stuff from your Gently album, which I wasn't released yet, on Twitter. And you had mentioned that on there that you were coming to town for the home and bath show or something.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, okay, yeah. I was visiting like one of these. It's like an industry show for like the infomercial world kind of thing, and I was going like my dad was gone, but I was like still kind of in that industry, and so I got to go and just like I had no business, like I had no like responsibility to be there or do anything. I just got to like go and hang out. So one of the things was we met up, and I was saying it was right below the Hancock building, right?
Yeah, we were gonna have dinner at the what is it, a cheesecake factory or something, but I think it was too busy or something, so we ended up getting coffee at the old pump house next door.
Nice. Yeah. I remember. And then and you took photos, and then we chatted, and you were doing like a publication.
Took photos.
Oh, what? Yes.
I dug that up this morning.
Oh my god.
Look how we're like kids.
My life was in absolute shambles at that moment, but that was a good memory. That was a good memory.
So I remember that was
when was it?
8 months maybe after your dad had passed, and you had also had an apartment fire, I believe.
Yeah. I mean, well, let's get into it. That gives a little history. So, you mentioned my Gently album, which came out in December of 2009. Well, in February of 2009, I had just like moved out of my dad's house after college. I was like kind of staying with him, and then I got my own apartment. And 2 weeks after I moved in, I got a knock on the door at like 3 a.m. and I ran to the front door, and they're like, "You got to go. The building's on fire." And I was on the second floor, and I was like, "I'll only go grab my stuff." And they're like, "No, you got to go now." I just grabbed like my keys, phone, wallet, and I came back to the door, and the whole place, the stairs were covered in flames, and the dude like broke the fire extinguisher and sprayed down the stairs. And my partner and I at the time, we ran past just in time. By the time we turned around, my entire roof over my specific apartment was on fire.
Wow.
And I just like watched this whole building burn down. Nobody got hurt, thankfully, except like a dog got burned a little bit on its back, which was sad. But I lost everything I owned, like priceless things, obviously, but music collections, gear, my whole studio. Worst of all, though, I had a custom made guitar that my friend in Chicago actually built for me. That was like just priceless. It had like my inlays. It was like made for my hands. It was like completely priceless. And he was actually the person I called at 3 a.m. And I was like, "Dude, my apartment's on fire, and I'm looking at it, and the guitar's in there, and I'm like, I think if they put it out, maybe I can go grab it. And he's like, dude, that guitar, the lacquer finish is not even dried yet. It only been like 3 months or something. He's like, that was the first thing that lit on fire. And so anyway, so that was my February 2009, and so I had to start fresh. And before this, I was making just like metal music. I was making like melodic metal music, and then I was able, thanks to my dad, I was able to kind of get back on my feet and get the basics. But he got me just a basic Fender Strat guitar and like a practice amp, and I was like, okay, and that's all I had. And so I started just like writing like softer songs and just kind of like emotionally connected songs to kind of like just process how crazy that was.
Yeah.
And it was also like a sense of lightness of like, well, I don't really have that much. I had like a couple shirts and, you know, so I remember feeling like a little bit of like a relief underneath this like just complete shock and trauma of it.
That is such a strange, there's such a strange parallel. So the band, we interviewed my buddy Ralph some time ago, and my connection to Ralph is the main brains behind the band that I'm in. Is a guy named Rui Pedro. He got throat cancer and lost his ability to speak. And I said this 1,000 times on the podcast. I don't care. It's a compelling story. I don't give a shit. And while he was in the hospital, he was always into music, and he played percussion and stuff. And someone had given him a guitar right before he got his diagnosis. And so while he was taking his treatment, he learned how to play guitar. And that's kind of the origins of the band I'm in now. And there's just something about having like, and it was the same thing for him that you were just talking about, where he knew that he was going to lose something that he considered to be absolutely essential to his identity. And so he kind of like turned to music as this way of just being like, I need to process this. This is what I'm going to do. And it turned into something just beautiful. And like,
is that where the name came from? It's Mute?
Mute Sounds. Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense. Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
well, I mean, that's what it was like. It was like kind of just a new thing. And I started writing some I wouldn't say soft. It was just softer. And it was just like more emotional music, and it was simpler music, let's say. And I think I recorded 3 songs, and I was like, oh, this is awesome. Like, I'm getting somewhere. There's gonna be an album here. I don't know what's gonna happen. And I just finally got a new apartment in like May, late May of 2009, and then late June of 2009, my dad died in his sleep. June 28th. Yeah, thanks. And if you know who my dad was at the time, like he was like this famous dude, this pitchman. And so there was like so much circus and weirdness surrounding it. I did okay in those moments with just like dealing with it. But like I completely stopped making music for like 3 months, I think, which was like unheard of for me because I had been playing music and writing music and recording music. I went to like a recording arts college, and like it was just such a huge part of my life that it was just weird that this just stopped. And so I think I ended up, I'll just cut to, this album that we're trying to get to is basically, I was very lucky. Through some weird series of events, my dad was offered a free spot at this like celebrity retreat before he died because he did something nice for the owner. He like pitched in to buy her a car for some reason. I don't even know the whole story, but he didn't even know her. And I guess when they found out that he died, they were like, we should extend the invitation to his son. So I went. I got to go to LA and like go to this $5,000 a week retreat that Oprah goes to and shit. And it was like intense. They feed you every meal. It's like raw food. You work out all day. You hike 10 miles every morning in the mountains. You get a massage. Like it was just intense. And not everybody gets to do that. So I'm not like this actually makes it sound really like an easy time getting through it, because it really did like put me in a place where I wouldn't have been. And I remember on the mountain, they did a silent hike a couple of the days where you weren't allowed to talk to anyone for the first part of it. And that's when I started hearing the music again, the same music. Like it just kind of picked up and it just like activated. And from that moment, I worked from August to November to make this album, which became, I call it Gently. Oh yeah, look, there's the album art. That's cool.
I try.
and honestly, it's probably like the most unique thing I've ever made. It's different than everything else that came after it. It just couldn't have happened except in that whole situation. And I actually, there's more to it, but I intend to revisit some of those songs later because I really listen to it and I'm like, this is like a child made this, but also it's special.
So I have the CD, and I've always thought of, because the original CD, I think it was under Billy Mays the Third.
Yeah, right? Yeah, it was like under a different name, and
it's funny because I've always
developed in my brand.
I've always like separated it from Infinite Third because of that, and so then when you put the Infinite Third logo on it, I was like, oh, it's Infinite Third now.
Yeah, I'm big on like retconning my whole like output later on. Like I do it like a couple times, like every couple years I'll go back and be like, okay, like I can update this album art or something. I'm big on that.
Yeah, like so to me it was like two distinctly different things though, Infinite Third and then the Billy Mays thing, like, and now they've been combined, and it was interesting to me.
So I guess we chatted about that in Chicago, and then I guess it wasn't even out yet then. Okay, so that was probably October, November.
Yeah, because you had been sharing stuff, and then I remember you told me when we met that you, like, people had contacted you about like interviewing you or talking to you, but you blew them off, and I actually approached you about your music, and so you were actually talking.
Yeah, I mean, I was telling Ben that was actually my first ever interview about music.
Okay. It was my first interview that was like any significance in length. So that was, like, we sat for a while and chatted. Like, I had done like some quick phone interviews before that, but that was nice. That was nice and chill. It was cool.
Yeah, and now here we are.
Like 13 years later or something.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you say that Gently is like the most different thing that you've done, because from what you were telling me, like, different is kind of what you do, right? Like, like, can you describe the kind of music you make?
Yeah, I mean, so the thing about Gently is that it's sort of got this like whimsical side. This whole, like, it's all like this like kind of, I always think of it as whimsical. I don't know why. It just like has a breeziness about it, which is funny because it comes from a really dark place. But I think it was, the whole point of it was like hope in a dark place, and I guess I was just clinging to that or something. I don't know. It's like so hard for me to even think about what I was thinking about at that time. But then, I kind of go back to my dark ways because like that's where I feel better, is like making dark, like heavy, not just metal heavy, like emotionally heavy music, which Gently, I wouldn't call it heavy, but there's heavy moments. But it's, anyway.
What is it about that, do you think, that like kind of, because I agree with you that there is something uplifting about listening to something that is supposed to kind of like, that feels oppressive to some degree. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There is something like, it kind of fills my my wings a little bit when I listen to it.
Well, there's different versions. There's like, why do people watch horror movies? It's like,
that's right.
A lot of people get positive feelings from dark, like tragic movies and stuff, and I get it. I think it's kind of like my one thing I could compare it to is if you've ever like eaten mushrooms of like the magical mushrooms, like my experience
psilocybin for the kids at home.
Yes and I was thinking about that word the other day, like calling it like silly cybin. I think that'd be fun.
Yeah, that's an appropriate one. I giggle a lot on the silly cybin.
But my experiences with it have been so like, there's always this period at the beginning where I have to pass through like death. Like I have to be like, I'm just going to die. Like, I hate this. I'm going to die. And then it's just bliss after that. And I feel like that's what it is like heavy music, like gives you a safe place to just like get pummeled and get beat up and just be like, please just like beat the shit out of me and let me go on with my life. I
think sometimes matching the thing you're going to listen to or experience to the emotion that you have almost gives you like permission to fully experience that emotion. Like, I remember like when I'd have like a breakup or something, I would play the saddest fucking love song and stuff. Like, it would amplify that or whatever. But I think it felt like it gave me permission and backup or something,
Yeah. And I think
I used to
go ahead.
I used to have a tradition that when I had a breakup, I would go out to karaoke and I would sing "Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You" by Led Zeppelin. Whether I dumped them or they dumped me, it didn't matter.
Nice.
Yeah, and it was just like by the time I was done the song, I was like, okay, I'm ready to find a new one. Let's go.
That's great. Yeah, I think all of my music, I mean, gently especially, but in a different way, is kind of just coming from like this grief. Because I think I always feel like once you feel grief, like you kind of just activates your grief system, and then you just like you don't stop feeling grief. You just like you just notice it everywhere, because not in like a depressing way. I mean, a lot of people do feel it in a depressed way, and I have, but I just think it's once you lose something really tangible and real, you just kind of see that you're always losing everything. Like you're losing time, you're losing who you were, and that's, I feel like my music, I really just intend it to be a meditation on that, which is why I was telling you it's improvised. And there's something for me that's like that's my only way I feel really comfortable playing for people, is if it's just like what I'm feeling right now, even if it's not as good as it could have been if I planned it. You know,
It's like a Buddhist mandala.
Yeah, totally. I've been to some of those where they make it and they blow it away at the end. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah. I lost my stepdad when I was 18, so like I do understand a similar. There is, I had a friend. This is years ago. We were working together, and she was had a beautiful voice, and we were planning on making some music together. And then she learned that her mother had some sort of terminal illness, and that she was not going to last long. And so she had to move back home, and that was hours away. So it was probably the last time I was going to see her. And I was also leaving my job. So we all ended up going out for dinner together. And she was talking about how difficult it was to look at life the same way while she was going through something like that. And how she felt like she would never be the same. And we were in this restaurant. Everybody's having a wonderful time, and they're all eating delicious food. And I just, she and I were sharing something at the moment that most people don't have at our age, because we were both in our 20s. Mm-hmm. And I looked around at all the people. I was like, all these people, we're all in the same boat, but we know something they don't, that this is fleeting. And that like, there's a moment when we'll remember this and we won't be able to enjoy it as much because it'll be the past.
Yeah.
And you can let that get to you, you can let that consume you, or you can just acknowledge that kind of is beautiful.
Totally.
That it doesn't last.
In that way, I'm very thankful in a lot of ways for how that year went. Like I think about it all the time, that if given some kind of magical, like I think it was our Spider-Man thing where it was like they wipe everybody's memory, like given something where I could go back and like not be the person I am, like I'd probably choose to just be this person and like let that all be gone.
It gives more meaning to everything, like just those.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
I like what you said, like we're all in the same boat, but like some people just, it's almost like it like cracks you open to it and you can now see it everywhere. Mm-hmm. And
like a lot, the Matrix.
And it's hard to, like, I can imagine the times before 2009 where I really just didn't understand yet. Like I didn't really get that, like, yeah, like my grandma died, but like that felt natural. That felt like, hey, grandmas die, you don't, like, it was sad, but it wasn't like loss, like abrupt loss, right. an unexpected loss,
I remember vividly the first day of school back. So my dad passed August 27th, and my birthday was September 2nd, and the first day of school was September 3rd. So I went to school with just like the full weight of this experience on me, and just seeing everybody else had a great summer. And it was just this realization that I was never gonna be at school with these kids the same way. Like they all had the same summer.
Wow. Yeah.
And then the second realization was how everybody else was treating me differently. Like they knew it too. And so everybody would be laughing and having a good time, and they'd look at me and they'd be like, hey, how you doing, man? And I just wanted to be normal again. I just wanted to have, like, I didn't necessarily even want my dad back. I know that sounds dark, but like what happened. I just wanted to just be a kid again. And, you know, at the moment, I didn't really understand what I was dealing with, but like music was the thing that kept me going. You know what I mean? Like every time I had a moment and I needed to step away, music was there. It always took care of me.
So Stephen H. Along those lines said, sometimes you want to share your feelings, but not with a person, and a heavy song that hurts can be a good companion.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
it's like having a dog or cat with you.
Yeah. And I think having your expression, whether it's music or whatever, and what we both just shared is a universal experience, and it's a form of like self-therapy. It's like needed therapy. Like sometimes you need more therapy with like an outside perspective, and totally like a big supporter of that. But we all need that baseline, like self, like able to like do therapeutic things for us. And I think art is like that. And I almost feel like in our society, it's not viewed like it like that as much as it should be. You know,
I totally agree.
Commodity, it's content where like we just need it, whether it gets released or anything. Like we need to actually physically release it. You know.
Yeah, man, you fucking nailed it. Like that's the sickness I feel when I think about how, like, as a musician, I don't see music in the way that some of my friends who have just been like kind of tangentially connected to music. Like they love their bands and they've gone to shows, but music is just like a part of the landscape for them, in the same way that architecture is just part of it for me, you know? Like I'm not obsessed with it, but if I got into it, I'm sure there's a lot of deep stuff I could learn. But you know, for music, a lot of it for them is like when they talk to me, they're like, oh yeah, you got more listeners, oh you got more followers, that's really cool. And I'm like,
oh man,
art's therapy, man. Like it's me. I need to do this. It has nothing to do with everybody else.
I relate to that with comics too. I don't need, like, I have a good job and I love my job. Like I'll be happy to do that till the day I die. So like, I don't need my comics to, you know, support me, but I need to make my comics because that it's an outlet.
Yeah.
What's your thing, John? What's your thing?
Basically, right now I'm doing comic editing, but I've done music journalism and things through the years, and it's always been various types of writing and same kind of thing. Just get it out of my head and into the world, because and on the music side, I'm not a musician, but it's been my saving grace for years. It's such a cathartic thing to be able to put on. For me, it's more of an angry music thing when I'm feeling those feelings. I will put it on and it gives me that huge feeling of catharsis afterwards. And it helps me get through it. Feeling the anger, or occasionally I'll do the, you know, delve into, like Eric was saying, you know, put on a sad song and get into my feelings a little bit if you need to get a good cry out or something like that. But generally it's just getting pissed off and like angry, and then I feel completely relieved at the end of it.
See, I'm not afraid to throw on some Dashboard Confessional for a few hours. And
exactly. Whatever gets you into the correct emotional space. And I know I didn't really answer your question, Billy, but
no, you did. You did. I mean, that's what it was, your process. I mean, that's what I was asking. And there's actual studies about angry music releasing the right like endorphins that you need to like feel calm, you know?
Yeah, and I would I'm not working currently. I'm taking a year off to kind of figure out what I'm doing. But when I was working, I would always be the guy with the like Bluetooth speaker that was in the communal space, putting on the angry music. And like you'd get those days where everybody pissed you off, and I had like the Muslims playing in the background, and there was one album in specific that would just, by the end of it, I was just so happy, and everybody else was so scared of me. But it was just a wonderful feeling, because like I said, it's just that absolute catharsis.
Yeah.
My favorite memory of like workplace music, and I still do it occasionally, but I'm a lot more respectful now. I think my tastes have kind of diversified, and I'm not. When I was younger, I used to like to shock people a little bit, you know, because you get a kind of a thrill out of that. But my my favorite thing back in the day used to be to put on music that most people would consider heavy, and just see the reactions, and then if someone was like, wow, this is intense, I'd be like, you think this is intense? And then like just keep upping the ante with all my metalhead friends who were like, oh yeah, let's put on some Cannibal Corpse, you know.
I got a good segue for you. Here you
go. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then eventually the manager would come back and be like, the customers are complaining.
All right, speaking of segues, I don't have one, but using that kind of
perfect.
So I want to come back to the music, but you have other avenues. Going back to the grief and all that, a lot of that stemmed from the loss of your father.
Mm-hmm.
You did something that a lot of people don't, maybe can't, in celebrating your father shortly after with your where'sbillymays.com.
Mm-hmm.
And it was funny today, I was pulling together stuff and I looked over next to me. I have a art board that I'll pull out to my front room and I'll work off of. And on there was this guy.
Nice.
That's great.
Yeah, that's like one of the originals.
Yeah. I mean, that day.
That whole thing started actually because a friend of my dad's made stickers of his face, like cartoon stickers of his face, and he brought him to the funeral, and it was awesome. Like, it just totally fit the vibe of like this guy's. My dad had a funeral in our small town of McKees Rocks, Pennsylvania, in a church and a funeral home that like could not handle the volume of people that showed up because people got wind of it, and there was like line way around the corner, but everyone was getting these stickers, and I started getting pictures of people sending me like, hey, I'm in Paris with your dad, and like I was like, oh, this is cool, and it almost became like a Flat Stanley thing. Wasn't that what it was, where you bring like a little Flat Stanley guy? So I made a website that started just Where's Billy Mays, where I would just post the pictures, and that's how that started. And yeah, that totally, I haven't even thought of this in so long, but Eric dug deep. And basically that was the seed of like things that I'm doing now that are actually kind of more serious in the world. But the development of that led to we did like a costume contest that Halloween, because I knew people were dressing up as my dad anyway, and I was getting people saying they were gonna. And I was like, all right, let's just do a contest. And I didn't know, but like hundreds of people sent photos, and we did a contest. We picked 3 winners and sent them like OxyClean and stuff. And
that's amazing.
I still have, if you go to my website billymays.org/cosplay, you'll see it's like an endless feed of people,
awesome.
You know, all genders and, you know, all different places in the world, just like dressed up as my, probably not in the world, because he's more of a USA phenomenon, I'll say. But so yeah, so that's all led to like, it's always just kind of like something I'm very lucky to get to do that a lot of people aren't able to do in this way, is just like share, you know, things and get feedback and get positivity spread just by sharing like a memory of my dad. And, you know, a lot of strangers feel like they knew him. So that's something that I get to enjoy, that I feel really thankful that I get to, and that's been very, you know, helpful in the process. But that's led to, I have a website called billymays.org. You just go to billymays.org. And over the years, it's kind of turned into this like nonprofit venture where we've raised money for a couple different causes so far. One being a really appropriate one. It's called the Laundry Project. It's my friend's company where they do free laundry day pop-ups at laundromats in like underserved communities. And I volunteered with them before, but we got to raise a little bit of money. We did like a Billy Mays beer locally one time, and just a couple different ways so far. I've done some shirts and things like that. But yeah, so I've actually made some big moves this year to get a couple things going. And I mean like the last 2 weeks of this year.
This year.
Yeah, like I won't say much, but like we're on our way to making a documentary about his life. And
amazing.
Alongside that, I have some fun things that I want to do that will raise money for things that are like fun. Like I want to still do the charity, like raise money for this charity, but I want to do it by licensing his name and likeness to like for like collectibles, Funko Pop, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so we've been consolidating everything and getting ready for that. So I think, you know, over the next year, you'll start seeing some of that.
Awesome.
I used to love watching Pitchmen, so I'm sure you guys got some great clips. If you have
Yeah,
access,
no,
to it.
there's tons of footage and just awesome, like a lot of, and then that's another thing. It's like not a lot of people have like this much media, and I'm talking like memes. People still to this day are making memes, include my dad, and I'm just like, it's almost like his meme has lived on even longer than he was famous and alive. Like,
I bet if my son saw him, he'd probably recognize him, and he's only 10.
Yeah, maybe just as a meme. Like, I don't know who that guy is, but I've seen him. Yeah, and my dad was only famous for like 5 years, like, and then he died. He was on TV for like 10 years.
But it was a really important 5 years. It was like the explosion of the digital world, and
yeah, totally.
Yeah,
and yeah, like having a reality show, it's been something we've talked about with trying to like wrap our heads around his story, is that he kind of like he paved the way for like what you see as influencers now, which is kind of dumb, because it's like how that became. But he would have crushed it on TikTok and stuff like that. It would have been a whole different world. Which is funny. Like a year ago, I posted an outtake of his that I posted everywhere else just because I always do. And on TikTok, it went super viral and got millions of views. So that's what led to this whole new venture. Like, I had kind of put it off during COVID. I was like, I'm just streaming, doing my thing. I have a daughter now. She's 2. So I was just doing that. And then once that TikTok thing happened, I was like, damn, this is like still really strong. Like, I need to just do this and like close the book on his life. And that's the plan.
That's awesome.
That's beautiful, man.
So other ventures, I know, I don't know if you're still doing it, but the Mouth Council.
Yeah.
That's one thing you were.
That's a fun thing. I mean, I actually, it's on in hiatus, and that's from COVID, because Mouth Council was a thing where I been doing it almost like, I probably started doing it like 2 years after Gently came out. And it's like the ultimate improv social experiment performance, where I would take my looper and sit in a circle with people and just have a microphone, and I would start with like a little beatbox and then pass the microphone to the next person and loop whatever they do, and we'd be mixing songs. And it started out as just something to do at a party, and then I was literally taking shows and doing shows on stage, like band shows. You'd have a Mouth Council set where I would bring people up from the crowd, or have some of the other bands come up, and we'd make music. And there's some videos out there, but no video has really ever captured like the good ones, or like what it's really like when you're there, because it's got this like drum circle energy almost, but like electronic. And that really grew, and that became actually my career for a while, more than Infinite Third, because I was getting paid to do like team building exercises at offices and just different kinds of parties and art openings. It was just much more universal than Infinite Third. Infinite Third is like a heavy experience, but Mouth Council was just, I could do it with kids. We would do it like at like kids parties, since I literally did like a bunch.
I was thinking when you started talking that like that would be so good for kids. Like they would eat that up.
No, I've done it a lot. I've done it every year on New Year's. I was doing it at this like kids zone of a New Year's, St. Petersburg, Florida, like there's the city's New Year's thing. They would pay me like quite a bit of money to just facilitate this. It was just chaos, but making kids like make noises, and I would always say, like, if you can't think of anything to do, just like make an animal sound, and it would a lot of caca. And
I was actually thinking about that. I was like, it sounds like it'd be a ton of fun, but it definitely sounds like there could be times where it would go completely off the rails. Have you ever had that?
Yeah, but the best thing is I have control of it. I can just turn it all off and start again, or that was always kind of the lesson of it. We'd always just be laughing, even if it got way too crazy.
That's cool.
I only had like one time probably where somebody was inappropriate in a bad way, and I had to like tell them not to say the N-word or something. I think and then like, but other than that, it was pretty trustworthy environment. I would play like noise shows where you'd have like experimental like weirdos, and I was one of them, just like doing the weirdest sounds, going completely psychedelic and shamanistic, and then I'd have like hippies and new age festivals where that would be a whole different experience. We would have hip hop shows where I would go to freestyle hip hop events, and that would be a segment where people would rap over it, and I would kind of tell them like, just try to do like 16 bars, because people have a tendency to just keep rapping when you're freestyling. So I had to start implementing that. But man, that Mouth Council got me into so many different scenes and communities more than Infinite Third ever could, you know. And when COVID happened, I just felt like really unsafe to bring that to places and like be spreading these spit droplets now that we're all aware of what's going on, like, you know. And that was always the case. We could have always been getting each other sick, but that was never really a thought when I was doing it in 2020. So I haven't done it since then, and it kind of breaks my heart because it's been 2.5 years.
There'll be a time when we feel collectively comfortable with infecting each other again, and you can just totally bring it back.
Most people are there already.
Yeah, I'm kind of there. Like,
no, I know, but it's not even that. Like, it's just kind of grown to be this like this anxiety for me of like not just that, but like this just social anxiety of like people feel different now post that. Where I don't know if I feel as comfortable just like being wild and free out in the world, and that's a shame, and that's probably just something in me. It'll come back. My real like evolution that I see for it is that I'll be able to do something to like mitigate that for myself. Maybe have like separate microphones, something like that. But what I really want to do is do an in-person like web series podcast of it, kind of like Hot Ones, where it'd be like I get a band to come in, sit in a circle with them, film it from different angles, and then like not just chat, but then break it up with like, hey, let's do a song, and then do the mouth council thing, and then chat again. That's where I see it ending up. But really the fun part of it was just being out in the world and just having the social experiment of people walking up and be like, what is this? And then just handing them the microphone. You have to check out some videos because there are a couple good ones.
That sounds like a ton of fun.
How fun it is. And it was great for me because it didn't all rest on me. It was like, I did the mixing and I would do like hi-hats and kicks and snares sometimes, but you know, everyone else I could get, even non-singers, whatever, just I could get sounds out, I could put effects on it. And
it must be like a real bonding experience for everybody there too, because like my current band, you know, we're purely instrumental, but we have one song where we have like a small section where people sing along, where it's just like we all kind of hum together. And like we do it, and then we go, okay, now you guys, and then they do it, and then we kind of get it going, and then they do it while we're like crashing through the crescendo of the song. And the feeling is so awesome. And after the song is over, I can see everybody kind of looking at each other like, that was awesome.
Yeah.
So like I can just imagine
like, interactive, you know, break down the walls of like performer and audience. You know, sometimes it feels like it's just this screen that's up. Especially because we're doing it on screens also.
That's true.
You know, it's really hard to like collaborate on a stream on Twitch, like when I'm streaming now. But of course, the Mouth Council ways have made its way into my streams as Infinite Third, and some of the people are even in the chat right now. Basically, what I've been able to do, and this is totally, I didn't plan for my channel to be like this, is I have like little things that like community submissions that people make. Sounds, so they'll give me a sample of them saying something. We have an Irish dude who has a cool accent and he says a bunch of stuff. They'll make like AI things where it like says welcome to the Infinite Third stream, whatever, but I'll work them into drops in the music. So I'll trigger something, but it's all community, like it's all been made by everybody else. I haven't really made anything. So that's like the closest I've gotten to like digitally recreating any of that level of community, which I miss.
That's cool. That's got to be exciting for people, like when they're listening to like hear where they're going to get dropped. Like we do that on our podcast for our book. We'll name characters after people that we know, and then we won't tell them though. So then if they listen, they'll catch it and be like, "Whoa!" And then we always hear about it. It's a lot of fun.
Love it. That's awesome.
So like, you play multiple instruments? I mean, you have to do what you do.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm primarily guitar. Like that's what I started with, and that's like it's guitar based, you know. But
so that's your origins. Do you play drums or keys or all that stuff?
Drums. Yeah? I do all the programming and mixing and everything, and I have like synth. Right to the left of me right now, I have a machine that has drum pads and sample pads, and then I have a keyboard that controls it. So I can do synth notes, and then I can also just play the pads like, you know, like drums. So I play with my fingers more than I play with sticks or anything like that now, but I do play drums too. And yeah, you'd be surprised like the stuff I do on guitar that can sound synthy and sound like other instruments. So I guess I do feel like I just like feel most comfortable in guitar for sure.
Fair enough. So because what you do is so improvised and so kind of in the moment, is there a particular sort of writing structure that you go through? Like when you're putting something together, do you start it in a certain way? Do you like kind of just go with your gut? How does it like how
Yeah.
did this whole thing kind of manifest in the first place, you know?
Well, when I started playing live, I had made my album and I wasn't playing live for years. I was making ambient music after that, and I was just kind of like doing studio stuff that had no element of like performance or like needing to get it to nail it. And then I played my first show, I think in 2011, and what I learned from that was like I don't think I made a plan. I think I was just like I'm just gonna go and play and loop and do some things, and hopefully it'll be something. And I learned like having no plan can be really bad sometimes if you're not confident and strong in what you're doing. And then I started going the other way where I would like overthink it. I would say, okay, I'm gonna start with this, and then I'm gonna go to this, and then it would not feel right at all the other way. So then I was like, all right, I have to figure out what the line is of knowing what my structures are, or coming up with some kind of structure that's like ready to go that I can fit into, and then completely improvising within that. And that's
Right.
where I'm at now, is that I've learned that if you do it long enough, you find all your structures and you can have enough of them that they always feel different. And I have ways that I'll start a song with this one thing. It's like, okay. And you know, one thing that I forget who was talking about this, but it was a musician saying everyone who plays an instrument has a thing that they go to as soon as they pick it up, whether it's a chord or, you know, they hit a cymbal the right way. Like they always do that one thing. And you just have to like take note of that and I think what happened with me is I think I've stumbled into like some kind of pentatonic, very basic scale that I really like. And you'll find that I play everything in this scale, but I've just learned that if I stay in this thing, I can make it sound like every scale. I know how to go from this one to this one, but my fingers always know these are the notes you can hit, but you can hit them however you want, whenever you want. And so the improvisation is that it's go crazy, but know that you're building up I have these structures in my head that are like, they're just set in stone now. They're just like, I know it's like instinctual, but you know, if you look at, I like to think that I have songs, but they're played different every time, completely different every time.
That's kind of how I approach drums, actually. That I think I was talking with my bandmate about this, where, like he was saying that there's a guy that comes to our shows. He's a music journalist. His name's Jojo. We're gonna have him on soonish. And you know, he was talking to my girlfriend while I was playing, and he was like, he described my style as tenacious, which my girlfriend was like, "Wow, you've never met him, but yeah." But the way he put it was, I never really know where he's gonna go, but I know I know it'll land, you know. And that's like, my approach to drums is, I learned this from Danny Carey from Tool, because I used to listen to a lot of Tool to try and figure out how rhythmic structure works, because he's thinking so far outside the box that there has to be a design to it. If it fits, if it makes sense in my head, and I don't know how he's doing it, it has to have some structure to it, right? That's how I was thinking. And what I realized is, when it comes to rhythm, as long as you hit the one, the rest of it is kind of, as long as you all hit the same note together, it's resolved, and then you can continue on. You don't really have to have
everything's in 4/4 if you just count in 4. It's like you don't have to care about the numbers. Like you can just you know that. And I get that. And I actually have a lot of people on my stream in the chat come in and say, "Oh, is this a Tool song?" Like, because I kind of tend to that little bit of like some of those scales that they do, and I think that's the exact scale that I'm talking about, which probably fits into some Fibonacci, you know, conspiracy theory thing. But yeah, like I totally hear it sometimes where they'll say that, and I'll be like, yeah, I'm totally doing a Tool thing right now, and that's just happens. And I go in my other directions, but of course I'm proud of it. I've listened to a lot of Tool as well. But yeah, I get what you're saying of like the tenacity. I think that's something that I used to like teach when I would do the mouth council thing as a teaching thing I used to do it as like a workshop, and it would be come join in this workshop, but we're going to talk about what's happening and why I'm doing it this way and how it becomes what it is. And one thing I would always say is that, and I guess I learned this kind of thing from like Victor Wooten, the bassist. One, there are no wrong notes. Like if you play the wrong note, just play it again and you're good. And
that is actually a rule.
Yeah. So then basically my personal like lesson that I would always give people that I was really proud of, because it is genuinely like when I do my best with improvisation, is I had to learn through messing up. When you mess up, you want to just be like, oh fuck, I messed up. But what I started doing about a couple years into playing live was I would mess up and I would like smile. I would laugh at myself and I would say, oh, like it was like a challenge. It was like, oh, I'm supposed to keep going now, even though I messed up. And then now it's just become like, you just always have to laugh. Like it's this like little corner of the mouth smile of like, okay, like instead of like, oh, like instead of fear, it's like amusement or excitement of like, oh, well, I'll mess up in this direction, and maybe, and all my best stuff ends up coming from like that wasn't supposed to happen. How did I get here? What's going on?
Totally.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, the favorite rhythms I've ever come up with were ones where I was trying to play something and like my hands forgot what they were doing and they did something completely different, but it resolved at the one, and I was like, oh, that was cool as hell. Oh, yeah. How did I do that? And then I'd figure it out and I'd be like, okay, I'm using that for the next song.
Yeah.
Totally.
So we had a comment. Somebody wanted to stop by and let you know.
And then chill. That's one of my moderators. On okay. Well, Stephen H is actually one of my moderators too, who commented earlier. But these are just like my OG Twitch community that have become like really good friends. Some of them I never met in real life.
So what's the music scene like on Twitch? Because I mean,
it's great.
I've considered exploring it myself. I almost did with one of the bands I was in the past, but it never really manifested. But it seems like it's kind of the perfect venue for, particularly what you're doing, but music in general.
Well, okay, so first of all, yeah, it's a gaming site, and which is crazy, but I would say music is like probably the second. No, it's probably not the second thing. There's like hot tub streams and weirdness, and people doing crazy things. But music
Porn will always be number one on everything.
Yeah, it drives technology, But the music experience on Twitch is awesome in so many ways. There's ways to do festivals where you have sets throughout the day of different channels, and you can like just ride from stream to stream. Everybody goes from stream to stream. Like I've done these. They're called raid trains.
Cool. Oh, that's cool.
You can raid at the end of your set, end of your stream, anytime you can raid another stream. So you pick someone else that's live. So we always bring our community to someone else, whether it's someone we know or not. Yeah, and then that's it's big welcome. It's awesome.
Yeah,
it's amazing. And then basically the experience of not just like the busking aspect of it, where people can tip, they can subscribe, you can see who follows like live, you can have it alert. The chat itself, this is something I say all the time on my stream because it's so true. When I would play shows back in like 16 through 2018-ish, I was doing these things called ambient installations, where I realized like a lot of the venues I was playing, like I didn't want to play short form sets at like a bar and have it be so hit or miss of like, are they going to care or not? So I started doing ambient installations, which were 4-hour shows where I would just like install myself in a place and say, come here, it's a free show. And I would put out like little pamphlets or little flyers that say, this is what's happening. Feel free to make yourself at home, come and go, do whatever you want, draw, talk to people, whatever. And so there was like this aspect of that where it was like, I developed this thing that made me really comfortable, these long form sets. And then, I kind of was able to operate in hour-long sets and feel good about that and play like a band again. I kind of felt comfortable in it. But there are some venues where I'll play and my music can get so quiet sometimes, or so like abstract, that sometimes someone will start talking over there and it'll kind of like make everybody unlock from what we're all focused on. And it's just energy of the room. And and it's really hard to find like intentional rooms. Like I would play like yoga studios, and that would always be amazing because people would be like, we're here to like absorb this. And but sometimes I'm at a certain, like a kava bar. I don't know if you guys are familiar with kava bars, but it's big in Florida. Kava bars. You drink kava, which is like a Polynesian root that gets made in this muddy water that is like an alcohol alternative, and you don't get drunk, you get muddy, and you kind of keep your wits, but it still relaxes you. So it's an ancient thing, but it's big in Florida. Anyway,
I'll get ancient drunk. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's awesome. And
I've
then,
gotten drunk and muddy before, but different stuff.
well, and also you can't drink kava and alcohol at the same time. It's like very bad for your liver and stuff. So what I would find is kava bars were a good thing, but they had that thing where like sometimes someone would talk and it would kind of throw things off. But I want people to interact. So when I started streaming on Twitch, I realized it was like the missing piece. It was like not only can people talk to each other in the chat and not disrupt everything, but I can talk to them. They can talk to me, which is like a completely different thing. It's like a telepathic thing where they're influencing the music or me just by saying something. Even if they're talking about their day, I'm just like, I love it. I'm just like, yes, like we're all hanging out in this room and we're all in our own safe spaces that we love, that we're comfortable in. And we're just getting to experience however we want. You can't, not everyone can have their own experience at a bar or at a yoga studio. Like you having the experience of being there. But
it's almost like sharing in the purest way you can, because like you don't have to go to a place and put on social convention. You can do it in your underwear. You know?
Yeah, like I do Friday night noise. That's my weekly stream. That's my big stream is Friday night noise, and it's for people who don't go out on Friday nights. You know, like
yeah, it's
I don't go out on Friday nights.
Here's the
oh, nice, yeah.
Here's the Twitch channel.
Here's my channel. It's Twitch has been a blessing. I love it so much. I played a couple shows this year finally, or last year finally. I played a festival and like a local show here in Atlanta, and I'm still like I'm gonna stream. But you know, I'll go out and play shows when it's right, but here and there. But really, I'm just like now I stream and then I sometimes play shows, where it used to be I play shows and like kind of stream the shows on my phone, and it wasn't a stream, you know. But and also being a dad now, it's like I don't have to travel and tour.
Yeah, it's perfect.
It's true.
Yeah.
Speaking
what
of
are the chances of a live stream happening?
What do you mean?
Like doing like an instrumental / mouth council thing and live stream it on Twitch?
Like now? Or no, you mean
no, I mean not like I mean if you could.
No, we couldn't.
No, but no. That's
like,
no, I'm saying like what do you think like what would be the logistical challenges of doing something like that, do you think?
Oh, you mean like in the real world and streaming it? Yeah, I've thought about this. Like the one kava bar that I go to that I love in St. Pete called Grassroots. It's an upstairs, and it's kind of like just a room that's kind of big, and they have couches everywhere, and they have a bar, but they have TVs. They have like 2 TVs, or at least 1 TV above the bar. I was thinking I could just stream, have my setup. I could bring my laptop, which I usually don't bring my laptop live, but if it's just a stream, that could be cool. And I can get a nice quality sound in there, and it wouldn't even be about the sound though, except if you're not there, you could watch it. But if you're in the room, I could say, go to this URL, and we could put the chat up and the stream itself with no sound up on the screen. And that's one way, or everyone could just be kind of chatting in there, and it could kind of like while it's like it could be frowned upon for everyone to be on their phones, I think in this case it could be more connective for everybody to be on their phones instead of talking and trying to whisper or talk over the music, or you know, it could give them an outlet.
It's actually kind of a cool idea to have like a social event that everybody comes to where it's acceptable to be on your phone the whole time,
right?
Because it's still a communal experience. It's just a different method.
There's got to be a way. Like, there's probably a.
Wouldn't that be hilarious though? Just like, what are you looking at me for? Look at your phone.
Yeah. Like the you know, they have weddings where it's like hashtag like Joey and Rachel, like, and whatever you post or send to this hashtag, it like puts it on the screen. Like I know there's things that do that, or slideshow, and you know. So I could probably even do it without Twitch and let it be something that happens where it's like, hey, here's a QR code, like go to this URL and you can interact with everybody that's here.
That would be cool.
Yeah, I would love to do that. I'm probably going to be experimenting that when I with that when I play shows coming up, because I have a couple. I'm probably going to play some in Florida in April. So
very cool.
Yeah, love to get that going.
You mentioned being a dad, and I contacted you earlier about this because I didn't want to do it without your permission, but I thought it was really fun. You had posted on Facebook a while back that your daughter was. You posted when she watched you play for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have the video, but I have a clip of it.
Oh,
she
yeah.
Was doing this little dance.
I was playing on someone's porch for this thing called the East Atlanta Strut. And it's just all these porches. They have like bands come and play. So I got to play on this porch. And 2 years in to her life was the first time she like really heard me play music, because I play into headphones in my room here and there's no sound. And she doesn't know how to get on Twitch. So yeah, so she it was like the best moment of my life. She just like started dancing and vibing, and I was
that's
like,
great.
oh my God, she must hate it, or I was afraid she might just like not care or hate it. But yeah, it's great. It's great. Being a dad, it's like it's exhausting, and it's like the hardest thing ever. But like right now, she's in the next room. She's like on the other side of that wall, and it's so funny. I'll be streaming, and you hear like pads hitting, you hear guitar like unamplified, but every once in a while I'll bust out my kazoo. I have a kazoo, and that's one of my like Twitch interactive things, is if you have enough points you can ask me to use the kazoo, and I'll bust out the kazoo. And I'm always afraid it's gonna wake her up because it's super loud compared to everything else.
That's right. Oh, man.
That's hilarious.
You got to get one of those digital kazoos.
I've heard about these, actually. Yes, I do need to get a digital kazoo. I think. How much could they be? $100? I don't know.
I definitely more expensive than a standard kazoo, I think.
Yeah, the standard plastic, 2 pieces of plastic put together that
with something fuzzy in the middle that like kind of vibrates.
I was trying to see if I have it. No, I don't have it. It's awesome. It's actually a friend of mine's band's merch. It's a kazoo. It's a purple kazoo, and it says "The People's Oboe." Like elbow, I guess. I think that's the reference to wrestling, but it's the People's Oboe, and I'm just like, yeah.
It is the People's Oboe, because an oboe is so complicated, but it is a kazoo basically.
Yeah. No, I don't have
That's
it.
Hilarious.
That's okay.
So I was gonna bring up your Channels album. I don't know if I should have done that earlier, since we moved on to talking about the live stuff. I was gonna bring it up and mention more recently you did this, but it's been like going on 6 years, I think.
2017, yeah. That was like the true, like that was like the next big peak of my releases after Gently. Like between Gently and Channels, it's like 8 years of like some fun releases, but nothing really that felt like a real project. And this one I did a Kickstarter for. I raised like 10 grand, and I did vinyl records and art prints and shirts and whatever. And
it's a beautiful package.
I actually like played live drums on it, and that was
very cool.
It was just awesome. It was like such a fun experience. And like Gently, it's probably the second that a lot of people connected with and still are like messaging me. Like this week, I got 3 messages from random people that were like, Channels is amazing. And one guy I sent a record to, so that makes sense. But then another guy, just random, and I was like, you're the 3rd person this week I don't know why people are listening to Channels all of a sudden. 3 people's a lot for me. So it's a little heavier. It's actually like a side A, side B, 40-minute album. I crafted it that way. And the best part was that I actually played these songs live. I played them like I had like a little bit of backing track stuff going on where I would trigger things, but I got to create something that you could actually. It was the first time I was ever playing music and then be like, hey, do you want to buy that on the record? Like I just never got to experience that. So I went on tour with that. Probably the best tour I've ever been on. It was like a month-long tour. I'm still.
What was your favorite place to play? What was the top venue for you? Let's just shit on everybody else.
I played in Chicago. I played at Subterranean. That was cool.
I've still never been there.
Yeah, the downstairs part. I don't think it was like the big part. I liked the Midwest. I played a lot in the Midwest. I played in Grand Rapids. I also really enjoyed the Midwest because that was where I met up with 2 other acts. One was a 2-piece post-rock band called Analecta, and the other one is another like ambient bearded guitar player named Null, and he's a good friend of mine now. Yeah, that was just amazing, and I'm trying to think of what the best place I played was though. There was a lot. There was yeah, just the Midwest. The Midwest had great stuff. I played a couple house shows up there that were amazing. Basement shows, you know.
Oh, man, house shows. There's something special about a
Yeah,
house show.
I love it. And
I played a house show where there was a tattoo guy in the kitchen that was giving people tattoos
like
for
steak
free.
and poke,
And someone was like, "You want a free tattoo?" I was like, "I've never wanted a free tattoo in my life. I'm good."
like with a machine or with stick and poke, like.
Oh yeah, no, it was a machine.
Okay, wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, but channels, I'm really proud of it still, because if you get the record, it comes with a little insert. It's got all kinds of Easter eggs and symbolism and Morse code on it, and
no, that's a great package. I loved it.
Cool. Yeah. No, I got to shout out my Kickstarter backers in a really cool way. The sleeve that holds the record inside the thing, it's like the inner sleeve, is just all text over a gray background, and the text is every form. The first side is every form of the word channel. I am a channel. I am channeling. Like almost like somebody went crazy and was just typing everything. I have channeled. I will. Like it was like grammatical, everything in this really small text. But on the other side, it was the names of the Kickstarter backers. It was like Eric is a channel, Ben is channeling, and it was just all that. But then for all the past tense ones, when I got there, I just started naming random dead people that I respect. My dad was one, Robin Williams, Heath Ledger, like different musicians, and I got to put like dead wrestlers on there. And so like I don't know, it was so fun for me to like actually have a concept album in 2017. Like I love it.
What do you this is a great time to talk about this. What do you think of do you think the concept album is dead, or do you think there's a revival in the offing?
Not for me. I'll never let go. I still only listen to albums, really. I don't really shuffle things that often. I try not to. And especially like when I'm actually listening to music intentionally, I look at it as like a movie, and I'll pause it there and I'll come back to it if I have to stop it. But I don't. That's just me. And personally, I'm always thinking about my own music in terms of I think of my streams in terms of albums. I'm like, there's an opening track, there's stuff that happens in the middle. I always close it out in like certain ways that are, you know, what I would do on an album if I was closing it, you know, a 3-hour album. I just don't think. I just think that.
What do you think is lost from the single side of things?
Lost?
Like if you prefer albums.
No, I mean singles are great, whatever. Like, you know,
sure.
I don't think it's like singles take over. I guess I would say probably widely they've taken over, and it's not about albums anymore. But I think it's like the same reason records are like on the rise still and like coming back is because there's something about the art of getting someone's whole like piece. Song, you know, it's so like passing now. It used to be you'd have to get an album and listen to a song if you wanted that one song, and maybe you didn't care about the rest of the album, but you had to go through that still to like look at the art and take out the thing. And I'm not saying I want that back, but I think we should have the option to continue like looking at music that way. Like I look at I use Apple Music, and I look at it as like I'm collecting albums, and I look at them and I'm like, this is my collection. It's like my dream, my childhood dream, when I would go to Best Buy on Tuesdays and buy 3 CDs, and it would be like $50, and then I would have this whole collection. Like, this is my dream. I have all the albums at my fingertips, you know.
There has always been something really fun though about an album where the songs bleed into each other, and like it's a full experience compared to the singles.
Yeah,
I think since I've been collecting vinyl more in the last, I don't know,
I see it behind
6 years. Oh yeah,
I've seen your videos. Yeah, I'm realizing that this is where they're at.
Oh yeah,
in your little record store.
So like in the last 6 years or so, like I'll put on an album and listen to the entire album. You don't sit there and with the needle and drop it right on that one song you want to hear. Like that's too much work.
Some people do. DJs do, I guess. But
oh yeah, that's true.
No, I'm just not gonna stop. This is how I see. I've been doing it so long. Like I'm just not gonna stop. I'm only trying to do it more. Like I literally, every night when I go to bed, I'm actually going through an album and finger drumming along to it to get this. I'm practicing the structure in my head. And this is something that I developed before Gently. I was doing it in college. I was writing my songs that way. And I'm actually, funny enough, what I've been doing for the past like 3 months is playing those same songs from college because I plan to remake them as an Infinite Third thing, because they were never like released and they weren't recorded well, but I love the songs. I've been playing them on stream a little bit actually and trying to relearn them and everything. But yeah, so albums, like I only look at it as an album. I couldn't think of just like using one of the songs. Like there are 5 songs that go together, and that's.
I think on channels that shows too. Like it is a full experience, I think.
Yeah. I mean, and I tried to make it so it was seamless as a record, but not too abrupt if you're just putting on track 3. Like everything kind of, you can just play them. Like track 1 is kind of useless without track 2, and track 6 is kind of useless without 7, but the rest kind of, you can just play them. So that was my.
You ever listen to the Mars Volta?
Yeah, definitely.
I always thought of their albums as their early ones in particular as really good for having that seamless quality, but you could still drop in and it still felt like a cohesive unit, you know?
Yeah.
That's a hard balance to strike.
I do like when bands, like I listen to a lot of Mastodon, and they'll have these things where like they have someone come and do interludes that tie all the songs together. And I love it. It's just like they have like actual like producers that they go to for this. And and that makes it cool because they'll throw that interlude at the end of the song. But you know, it could have just been 2 songs that stop and start, but there's something that ties it together. I love that.
Mm-hmm. I think of that stuff as like that's actually what I'm searching for when I listen to an album. Like that's what I'm listening for, is like the little spaces between things that like make it cohesive.
It's like attention
as
to
opposed
detail,
to individual units of songs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's that connective tissue that like I don't know. That's what gets to me as a musician and as
there are
like a lover.
Yeah, there are a lot of albums, and sometimes it's more obvious than others where they just had a bunch of songs and they put them together. Like it's not. And maybe it didn't even feel like they spent much. Like I like and I even listed it in my top 5 for last year. The Stereo put out an album for the first time in I don't know, at least over a decade, and I loved it. But like my one disappointment listening to it is it didn't flow as an album like their previous ones did. It felt more like they put together a bunch of songs, which is what an album is. But you know what I mean?
I do.
And that's how they started, I guess, too, was just singles put on the same wax, you know. So can't say that albums are like the original way. I guess songs are the original.
And I feel like that's kind of how release schedules are going now, is people are releasing a song as they make it, and then they'll do 3 or 4 of it, and eventually it might make it onto an album. So they're not thinking of it necessarily in terms of a complete whole. So it is sometimes it actually is just a collection of the singles. So it's interesting to see.
There's that need to stay relevant. So like you have to keep having something to release, just like having something to post on social media.
And well, what John was saying, like, I'm not a big fan of that when it's like a single, and then the album has those singles on it.
Yeah,
like,
I'm not.
I like the trickle thing that people do now, where it's like the rest of the album is grayed out, and you have track 2.
Yes,
and then it bumps up to your collection every time a new song is made public. I love that. I think I
dig that too. Yeah,
that's almost like I've seen bands do like 6 of the 12 songs at like every month. They'll do one. That's 6 months of like hyping up the album, and I look at that as like that's almost like a comic. It's almost like you know. You're getting the story that way, or like a TV show, even, you know.
Right. You get to re-listen once it's all over.
Yeah, then you get to listen to it all in context. And
like you said, I've got Apple Music too. So like when it bumps it up to the top like that, it's like you're rediscovering it every time it shows up at the top of your list again.
Yeah,
so
it's so smart, and it's not like cheap. Like it's not like putting out a single, and then repurposing those singles. Like it's intentional. You know, they've mapped it out this way, and there's a reason that it's this one and then this one, and maybe it's track 2 then 7, and it's just a new way of doing singles, like the way bands used to do it.
And I will say I'll play devil's advocate on the other end of the spectrum, the people that are releasing a single at a time. Sometimes I like to think that they're so excited to get someone, I've got a song ready, I want to put it out there. So it's like I can respect that too, that they have that, that really excitement to get it out in the world. So.
Sometimes it makes sense, like Blink-182 announced their big thing and then they had a new song. Like it's
that probably did make sense. Like I have two. In 2020, I released a single, but it was 2 songs. I was like, I can't just put out a single. It has to be like a song and then like the counterpoint song, so it's complete in itself. And then in 2021, I put out an EP that was 20 minutes long, but it was really 2 real songs and then like an ambient song.
Yep.
And so it had a concept to it. But what pisses me off really bad is that because of the length of it, it's like definitely an EP. Apple Music, or one of them, Spotify, calls it a single, and there's 3 songs. It just like makes me really mad. It's just like I just went on this rant about singles, and I have this whole section of singles on my discography that have multiple songs on them.
Yeah, they do. Well, there's no doubt your catalog is beefy.
Yeah.
I know you've been on Bandcamp forever with you've always sold like the entire catalog for a certain amount.
Right now I just have everything like name your price. Anyone can just $0 download everything, because I'm just like,
how many hours of listening is that at now? I remember watching it.
Yeah, it's days worth now. I mean, Bandcamp has tons, and there's even like a deeper level on Bandcamp where you can become a subscriber to someone's Bandcamp and you can have like a secret library. Oh, really? So I have like deeper cuts out of the 18 or whatever 22 that are on Bandcamp. There's like even more, and it's just my way of like stuff that like doesn't really hold up that much, but it still kind of is worth checking out if you are interested.
I just heard our 20 listeners just scrambling for a computer to go on Bandcamp and start subscribing to their favorite bands.
It is probably people who would listen to y'all would be into that. So I hope they do it.
Yeah, I'm doing it now. I didn't know
that.
That's kind of cool. I'm looking into that.
Yeah, I have a Patreon, and that's been great. I decided on Patreon to release every Wednesday morning. I release an ambient drone piece, and it's always stuff that I take from the stream, and I kind of take it into the DAW and clean it up and make it a complete fade in, fade out kind of thing. And I always pair it with one of our community friends' AI art that he makes, like really out there AI art, and I always pair it with one of those, just but I love that because it's just kind of like a simple automated outlet of like something new's coming out all the time. So I have like 40 of those, and then through that I also did beats that are on my Patreon. Like I have tons of stuff on Patreon now that I think of it, like that's not on Bandcamp, that's not. So I've always been someone that's just like constantly putting stuff out. I mean, Eric probably remembers back in like 2012 I did a song a day for a year.
Yeah, that's right.
And like so unnecessary. Like they were all improvised songs, but they had like concepts and names and stuff, and I would talk about them. But my other friend who did my album art, still does a lot of my album art, made a piece of art for everyone every day. But it was like we totally didn't have enough of an audience for it to like be interesting. Like it was just for us, really. And then finally on the 365th day, like SoundCloud posted it and was like, wow, you did it. And like all these people went to it, and they sent me like SoundCloud merch and stuff. Like that was like my prize for it. But I felt like I was like too early on that. Like now if I did like a song a day, that would be like a TikTok content, it'd be like, it would. Yeah,
but going back to what we were talking about before, like there's a value to doing it just on itself, right?
Totally.
Like
that that was where I learned improvisation, like in a whole new level.
That's amazing that you made it through the entire year. Like that's like
I was thinking by the end of that year, you're going to be an amazing musician. Like how could you not be?
Mm-hmm. No, that was a crucial year. 2012 to 2013 was like just jumped in like how I know my own music, like how I know how to access it. And anyone, if you do anything once a day for a year, you're gonna be like unreal at it, even if it's just your version of it. Yeah,
I saw this video the other day that kind of like it blew my mind, but it kind of affirmed something for me that I learned from like my time drumming as well. It said like it's not the amount of time that you practice something, it's how often you practice something. And the idea was like, if you practice for 3 minutes twice a day, that might be actually more valuable than practicing for 6 minutes every day. And the reason is like, what you're trying to practice is getting into the flow state. Because like, especially with music, like it happens in the moment. It's very real time. And so you can't really practice being in the moment unless you're practicing going into being in the moment. So what you're trying to do is like reach that place as quickly as possible. So the more often you do even 5 minutes of it, the faster you get at like entering that spot, and then you can just kind of like create once you're in it.
Totally. These streams are that for me now. Like there's always a new thing. Like it was the song a day, it was making the album, it was whatever. And now the streams are like the new consistent thing that I'm doing at least twice a week right now, and sometimes more. And
how about I pull up the
let's watch the thing.
Yeah. Adding it to the stream.
2 minute highlight reel.
Yeah, I'm gonna play you all some music for a while. Thanks for being here.
Wow, there's some really great vibes in here.
Yeah, so that was one of those drops that I was telling you about.
Dude, that was cool as fuck.
Thank you.
Like,
I mean, I will say that those are like culminations. All those moments are like culminations of 5 to 10 minutes of building loops and trying to find where I'm getting. But I've been able to learn how to do it in that it all sounds like a song, even though I'm kind of just like discovering where it's going to go and then get to that, which is like a part that is like powerful, you know? So
yeah, you
it's
got
kind
the
of
gears
pulling
turning
my
for
the highest peaks. That was particularly just the peaks, not the chill moments or the, you know, the bridges.
It's still amazing, like that you're doing that in real time. And like, man, you kind of like you're unlocking a new level of like music interaction with people. I was thinking about this when in the middle of COVID, when things were in lockdown. I was realizing, because I was watching people like try and do something musical without having a venue, and I realized that like I never really thought about it before, but like the audience is as integral to the musical experience as the music itself. And like it started making me think about it in terms of like I'm not really making the music. We are making a room where music happens, you know? And Twitch seems like what you're doing is kind of like keying into that without having everybody get in their car and drive somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a remarkable thing. I really think that this, like, we could be looking back at this in like 10 years and being like, remember when we went to shows?
Right? With VR, we just put the headsets on and we're actually in a room.
Yeah,
we're in
who knows?
Fortnite. We're in Fortnite and playing a show. You know?
Right? Yeah. Why not?
You nailed it. You nailed it about the audience and the, you know, how it's like a symbiotic thing. One doesn't exist without the other.
Yeah.
My shows, the reason I kept playing shows was because once I kind of gave in to like, I'm going to see what happens, I started channeling. That's where channels came from. Like what was needed. Like I would have people come up to me crying, saying like, "Oh, I really needed whatever you did." Like, and I was like, "Well, yeah, I did too." Like we needed it, and we created it together because you sat there and you gave attention, which I felt, and then I pumped through all this stuff. And it's a great way to shoot down any ego you have around like, "Oh, I'm the shit" or "I'm good." Like I love I recognize that I'm making good music. Like I feel like I'm making the best Infinite Third music in the world. That's all I want to do. I don't think music is like sport or competition. Like it's I hate that whole thing. And we were talking about numbers and, you know, people looking at views and stuff. Like I don't have the best numbers, and I you know, I would love to have great numbers, but this is the important part, is that I'm the best Infinite Third there is. Like that's all I want to be. But yeah, it's just, I love just remembering that everything's kind of like that, that anything that you think you can take credit for is really just this like magical thing that you had nothing to do with. Like you got out of the way more so it could happen. So like it should shoot you down. It should be like, no, you didn't do that. You found a way to get your stupid, you know, brain out of there for a minute so that it could happen.
Yeah, you allowed the process to happen around you, and it looks like you did something. Congratulations.
Exactly. And it's like the sensation of doing something is actually feels really good too. So like you have to, I found that I have to have both. Like I do kind of need like the ego stroke, but I can do that to myself and feel like, okay, I crushed it, you know, but at the same time underneath it, I'm like, thank God, like it let it happen. Like, thank God that the universe decided to use me as an instrument of pure good, you know, for a minute.
That's a beautiful way to look at it, man. I wish more musicians had the same approach, the same humility, and the same kind of like respect for the art itself, as opposed to being the artist.
Yeah,
I think beautiful shit can happen when you get out of your own way.
Yeah, I think it's like, it's the grief thing. I really think it's the grief thing that we talked about earlier, of like once it's activated, you kind of have to play by those rules. You have to like, you're playing by the real rules now, you know. And you know, I hate to say it, but like I do sometimes like find it hard to relate to someone that like can't like think of it that, or can't even just know the impermanence, like can't even like go there. And it sucks, but there's nothing you can do to give it to them unless you like kill their loved one or something like that. You can't get them there. So it's not like a better than or anything. It's not like more advanced either. It's just
do you know the joke about the two young fish?
No, what is it?
Okay, so two young fish are swimming down the river, and they're just talking about their day, and an older fish comes swimming the other direction, and as they cross past, the older fish goes, "Hey, how's the water, boys?" They keep swimming for a little while, and then finally one of them kind of like realizes what happened, turns to the other and goes, "Wait a minute, what's water?"
Yes, we're swimming.
That's kind of how it feels. Like we're the old fish.
Yeah.
We've been pulled out. Like, we got the hook, and now it's like
the veil's lifted, and now you see a certain thing that has always been there, which is
we know that there's a not
what
water.
Is this mystery that's holding us together, and why have we not exploded? Like, what's holding my bones together? Like that mystery. It's here, and we're living it, and it sucks. It's scary. Having a daughter is like having it times 10. Like having a child is like, it's just like, somebody said it's like having your heart exist outside your body, and that just like crushes me, because that's totally what it is. Because I have health anxiety, I have death anxiety, and now I have that times 100 about this little thing that like, if I don't intervene, she'll just like walk into traffic, you know. It's like it's a lot, but I'm thankful, you know. I'm thankful that I got through the hard things, and then and also it sucks that there's going to be more hard things. You know, there's going to be more loss. Everyone's going to have loss. My friend right now just lost her mom, and I'm talking to her as much as I can and just trying to be there. But it's just a reminder of like, I have more people to lose. I have more. We're all going to lose our precious lives that we've built. You know, like we're all going to have to let go of it all. And
but what you're doing is you're transmuting that into something that like connects us, and that like, you know, because when you do those streams, once the stream is over, you're no longer doing that. And the experience, I'll watch a recording and I'll have a feeling, but that feeling will be about what you had already done. I'm not there. I'm not in it the same way that the people in the chat are in it.
Yeah.
You know, it's a unique experience, and it can't be replicated. This is something that my girlfriend said about my band's shows, is like, she says, I listen to the Spotify every once in a while, but it's just not the same.
Yeah.
Because I've seen it. And
well,
like,
I'm glad. Let me say this. I'm glad that you said the word transmute. I got like really excited when you said it, because I have an album. My next conceptual album is called Transmute Death, and I've been seriously developing it since Channels. It's like how I look at it, like gently Channels, and then Transmute Death is that one that's way off in the distance that is kind of going to be this next like real full concept. And I have the album art done and everything. Like it's all ready to go.
Beautiful.
It's not recorded, and I'm almost like scared to record it because I know it's just going to be a journey, and it's going to be the soundtrack to like whatever shit happens in that time. And, you know, there's going to be a lot of processing. There's going to be a lot of catharsis, and it's a big undertaking to do that. But Transmute Death, the point is that like, there's nothing that will relieve me of death. Like I'm going to die. Everyone I love is going to die, and I want to transmute that energy into like power and strength and creation. I want to create something with it rather than just be oppressed by it.
Well, the reality is the person that you were before all of these experiences happened is also dead. We're dying every day. We're changing every day. If we're allowing ourselves to, like if we want to, we can be reborn. You know, and that's kind of like, for me, that's why I make music, is because it's like my way of interacting with the present moment in the least egotistical way I can. And like I stop being myself for a little bit, and I become like part of something else, and then I come back to myself, and I'm not the same person.
Yeah.
And like
we
are transmuting death.
Transmute all the deaths, you know, the little deaths,
yeah.
This conversation is going to end, and I'm going to be like, damn, that was actually like a special time, and like,
yeah,
never have this conversation again. And this honestly has been a great conversation with you guys.
It has.
Back at you.
I'm going to grieve it when it's gone.
Well, we'll have to have a second one.
I'm almost sorry to say that we're going to have to wrap it up soon.
Yeah.
That's life.
But that makes it more, a little more special.
Yeah.
But speaking of the future, you said you're planning on playing some shows in the future.
Yeah. I'm playing a festival. It's not like confirmed for me, but I've been asked to play it, and I'm going to play it. It's called Lost in St. Pete. It's a really like DIY underground festival in St. Petersburg, Florida. That's like an art, activism, and music experience and just like really immersive art. And they kind of take over the city. And my friends are part of like the booking team on that. So I'm going to come down for that. I'm going to be playing a house show in St. Pete as well at that time. That's kind of floating around the date. But other than that, I don't know if I want to play a lot of shows. I'm kind of just like, I'm a streamer right now, and I love that.
It sounds like you're playing shows all the time anyway.
Yeah, exactly. I just come into my room, my corner here, my green corner, and you should see. I wish I could turn the camera, but I have this whole spaceship around me that you can't see.
It's all right, man. You got a new sub. I'm going to be tuning in.
Sweet. Yeah. That's great. Thank you. yeah, other than that, I told you guys about the documentary. It's not really like something I've talked a lot about publicly, but I'm excited about it. It's something I've wanted to do for just as long as, my dad's been gone. So hopefully that goes well, and we get to where we're trying to go with it. And I would like to score some of it. And but yeah, I don't know. It's exciting, and I'm also scared shitless of life most of the time. I feel like I'm just like trying to transmute it and trying to fight like this anxiety of like shit is heavy and intense in life. It's hard. I don't know. That's me. I feel like I'm dealing with a lot of anxiety.
Sounds like you're taking the reins pretty well, though, from what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
So.
Well, thanks. it's I think these conversations, I mean, I know we're wrapping up, and I think what I'm remembering about these, a really good group of podcasters, it's a special thing. And it's just like, this is a medium, facilitating a conversation where everybody gets to kind of express whatever they're thinking at that time. And that itself is like, we're a band right now, we're jamming, and it's just I'm just remembering, I'm saying this just to wrap it up and say everything we talked about music has been happening in this conversation, and I really appreciate you guys having me on and letting me like see my creations through introducing them to you, and of course to reconnect with Eric after all this time is just awesome. So
yeah, this is great.
I just wanted to call that out and say thank you.
It was a beautiful way to start the new year, man. I got to tell you.
Yeah, it's been great getting to know you.
Awesome. You're a fantastic musician and beautiful soul, and I love that you're doing such good things with the opportunities life has given you, and turning tragedy into something nice and beautiful. And yeah, you're a good dude.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's mutual. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
And this best place to find you, infinitethird.com.
Actually, just even simpler, go to bm3.me. As in Billy Mays the third.me, bm3.me. It's my little like link tree or whatever.
I get you to everything. Okay.
Yeah, I recommend Twitch, and that's the main hub for where I am now. So,
well, I'll be annoying you in chat in the near future.
What's your username? Or if you don't want to dox yourself, it's fine.
I don't know yet. I have one with a friend of mine, and I have one for myself. I'm gonna have to figure out which one I can tune in with.
Okay, cool. Well, I'll look for you in the chat, and we'll see you in there.
Beautiful.
Cool.
Awesome. Well, everybody, thanks for tuning in and listening. And what is next week? Who do we got?
Is it Jay Prozac next week?
Is that Prozac next week?
You're right.
Yeah, I believe so.
Cool.
Nice.
Awesome. Then adios, everybody. Do we have a closing statement yet? Anybody got anything?
Mute Sounds is playing the Horseshoe on February 9th.
Oh, yes.
If you're in the Toronto area, the Horseshoe Tavern is a legend. The Greats have played there. Tragically Hip, Econoline Crush, I'm Mother Earth, all the greats. I believe Rush played there. I'm probably making that up. Alex Lifeson owns his own bar. Doesn't matter. You should come to the Horseshoe Tavern, famous for Rush playing so many shows. And it's one of my bucket lists. I've never been able to play it, and it's really notoriously difficult to get into. And we got a Thursday night, and that's kind of amazing. So
awesome.
I'm very excited.
Awesome. Well, if you can get that up on Twitch, I'll be there. So.
I'll try. I'll do what I can.
And I'll be set up with Muckspout at the Stupid Red Merch Company's 6th anniversary. They're doing a pop-up shop before their big party. So I'll be there in Milwaukee. I'll put together something to show on the show before then.
Awesome. Cool. And big ups to Stupid Rad Merch for sponsoring the podcast. And check them out. They got awesome T-shirts. They got also awesome everything. If you're a band and need some merch, hit up Simeon. I don't know. I hit him up all the time about things. He's done some stuff for my comics. He's just amazing. T-shirts, enamel pins, hats. Just the list could go on for days.
Sweet.
The list is almost as long as Billy Mays' music.
Right on.
Thanks for listening, and I'm hitting end broadcast now.